So this is a diagram of my four-wheeler sprayer. I want to show you how to calculate what kind of speed you need to drive to get a certain gallon an acre on. A lot of these four-wheeler sprayers, all they have is maybe a pressure gauge and that's it. So you can calculate speed and pressure, but it seems to me that's always, you go in the book and see what kind of tips you got and the spacing and how much pressure you're running, and it'll tell you how fast you got to get for X amount of gallons an acre. But I'm going to show you how to just sit down and measure what you have and then figure it out. It's a lot of steps, but maybe you don't know what kind of tips you got or what kind of pressure you're running or something like that. Or my pressure gauge, I don't even think the pressure gauge works on my sprayer. So, but what I do have is I have a boom that I kind of put together. It's got 4 nozzles spaced 20 inches apart. So the overall width is 80 inches. Even though it's only 60 inches from the first nozzle to the last nozzle, you got your tips, they fan out. So to get a 100% overlap like that, you got another 10 inches on each side. So the overall implement width is going to be 80 inches. And I want to try to get 20 gallons an acre out of this. We'll see if we can get that. I don't know. So what I did is I went ahead and I took a beaker and put a beaker under each one of those nozzles for a minute and measured how many ounces I get. And I came up with 40 ounces out of each one of them a minute. So we got to do a bunch of converting back and forth between gallons and ounces and hours and feet and miles. So bear with me here, but this is how you do it. You take your 40 ounces a minute that you collected and you divide that by 128 ounces in a gallon, and that'll tell you that it's pumping 0.3125 gallons a minute out of each nozzle. Now if we multiply that times 4 nozzles, we're pumping 1.25 gallons every minute. How many gallons is that in an hour? Well, just multiply that times 60 minutes and we get 75 gallons an hour. Now I want to try to get 20 gallons a minute. Hopefully that's possible with this. Hopefully I can drive the right speed, because that's what we're going to solve for, is the speed we need to drive. But if I take that 75 divided by 20 gallons an acre, that means I can do 3.75 acres in an hour. If I'm pumping 75 gallons an hour, that'll cover 3.75 acres at 20 gallons. So 3.75, we got to convert that to square feet, times 43,560 square feet in an acre equals 163,350 square feet. Okay, so area is length times width, right? So if this is our area, let's divide it by our implement width, which is 6.66 feet. We come up with 24,500 2.5 feet that we drive in an hour to do this. Now we take that 24,500 and divide it by 5,280 feet in a mile, and we end up with 4.64 miles per hour that we need to travel to achieve our 20 gallons an acre. So that's how you can do it. If you go ahead, let's say you got 10 nozzles and you're catching 30 ounces a minute. Well, you can go ahead and plug 30 ounces in there and just change what you need to change. There would be 10 nozzles, and somewhere in here we got to figure how many feet we had. Oh, there's implement width. So you divide by your implement width there. And so anyway, that's how you do that. I do something very similar on the corn planter when I'm trying to figure how much fertilizer I need to pump to reach a desired rate. I want to shoot for 8 gallons an acre, and my planter is an 8-row 36-inch, and what I do is I dribble fertilizer out the back of each row. So basically I have 8 nozzles spaced 36 inches apart, which is 24 foot. So now if I could have a field that was infinitely long, I would never have to turn around or anything. I could drive 4.5 miles an hour for a whole hour and never have to stop. So if I did that for an hour, drove 4.5 miles an hour, we would drive 4.5 miles times 5,280 feet in a mile means we just traveled 23,760 feet in that hour. Now let's see how much we just got planted, because we were dragging a 24-foot planter with us. So we'll multiply those two numbers and come up with 570,240 square feet. Then of course we divide it by our 43,560 to come up with how many acres we just got. 13.09 acres an hour. Now remember, I want to get 8 gallons an acre on there, so this will tell me how many gallons I got to pump in an hour. 104.72 gallons an hour. Well, how many gallons is that a minute? Let's take that 104.72 divided by 60. That equals 1.74545, repeating, gallons a minute. That's going to be for the whole planter. So what's it going to be per row? Well, we'll divide that by 8. That means 0.218181 gallons a minute a row. And if we divide that, or multiply that by 128 ounces that are in this gallon, we'll come up with ounces. So we need to pump 27.9 ounces every minute out of each row to get our 8 gallons an acre that we wanted. So that's the same math problem done 2 different directions, one forwards, one backwards. So one was I used a sprayer as an example, and one I just used my corn planter, but same idea for both. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps somebody somewhere along the line. So later.